So we learned about VIF, which is great for showing content conditionally. But we also have an array of content here. Potentially we have multiple goals. And it would be nice if we could output those actual goals, which we store in our View app, instead of this dummy goal. Well, of course, View has us covered for that as well. We now need to output a list of content. And that's also something you commonly have to do in apps. Consider lists of products, users, to-dos. Lists are everywhere in web apps. And therefore, of course, View gives us a tool for working with lists of data and outputting repeated content. Here, we want to repeat this list item with different content for all the goals we have. And View has another directive for that, the v-for directive. And you might see a pattern here. We have VIF just as we have if statements in JavaScript. And we have v-for just as we have for loops in JavaScript for dealing with repeated code. And it's the same logic here. v-for is there to help us output content that's repeated. So for example, here, we want to output the same list item over and over again for every goal which we have. And we can do this by setting a value to v-for, and between those double quotes, as always with those View features, we can execute a JavaScript expression. And here, we can point at goals, which is our data property that holds the goals array. But not just like this. Instead, in a for loop in JavaScript, we have something like const goal of goals. This is how a for loop could look like in JavaScript. It looks quite similar in View. Here, we want to go through all goals, but of course we also want to get hold of each goal so that we can take that goal's text, for example, and output it between the list item tags. That's why the v-for syntax looks a bit different. We have goal in goals. Goal of goals also is supported, but you should use goal in goals, which is a bit different than the standard for loop in JavaScript, but you just have to memorize it like this. We loop through an array with the in keyword when using v-for, and now this name here, goal in this case, is totally up to you. You can name it G or GO or hello, whatever you want. I'm going to go for goal because this will hold every goal in goals for every iteration v-for does for us. And v-for will go through all the goals and give us access to every goal here. And why is that useful? Well, our goals are just strings in the end. We just add whatever the user entered, which is a string, to goals. So goals is an array full of strings. So every goal here is also just a string, and hence here between the opening and closing list item tag, we can use double curly braces to output goal like this. And this now has to be goal here if you used goal here. If you used hello here, for whatever reason, it has to be hello here as well. But I'm using goal, so let's revert that. Now what this does is it tells View that it should repeat this list item for all the goals in goals. So render as many list items as we have goals in the goals array, and give us access to every goal. And then inside, and that's really important, inside of the v-for controlled element, so between the opening and closing tags of that element, and also on the element itself, we have access to that goal. We don't have access to goal outside of the list item element here. So if I tried to output goal here in another paragraph, which is not inside of the list item here, that would not work. And I guess that makes a lot of sense. In regular JavaScript, if you have a for loop, even though it looks a bit different, if you have a for loop here, you also can't use this constant outside of the for loop. And it's the same with v-for. So now this will repeat as many list items as we need for all our goals and output the goal text in our case between the list item tags. So if I now save that and reload this page, we can add finish the course, click add goal, and here's our goal. We can also add master view. click Add Goal, and here's the second goal. And you see that this list grows with every new item we add. And this is before and why it matters, because now we can really build a dynamic application where we render lists of content and also update that list when the content changes. And Vue does that updating for us. And it also does it in a smart way. If you inspect the list item here with the dev tools, I mentioned before that the parts which are updated in the DOM will flash. So if I add a new goal, watch what happens here on the right to those first two existing list items. You see, they did not flash. Only the third one, the new one, did. And that is how Vue updates the DOM. It does it in a very efficient way, leaving the unchanged list items alone and only adding a new list item, which of course is great for performance. It would be bad if Vue would re-render the entire list with every new item that we add. This would not be good for performance, and thankfully Vue doesn't do it. It's just important to be aware of such things because that helps you understand a bit more how Vue works under the hood. Now let's dig a bit deeper into V4.